Welcome to the webinar entitled Dealing with Furloughs. This topic is not an easy one to discuss, but here at Balance, we pride ourselves on delivering relevant content to our partners and the communities they serve. The furlough is not a new business strategy, but with the current pandemic, many people may be experiencing a furlough for the first time in their professional career. This is something that many people are dealing with. So if you've been furloughed or one is pending, you are not alone. The current state of our economy has forced many businesses to make some very tough decisions. Our goal with this webinar is to share some tips and tricks on how to deal with the furlough situation, and we hope we can shed some positive light around this topic area. Mindset is everything. If you have been thinking negatively about being furloughed, we need you to consider this. There might not have been anything you could have done to avoid this situation. Nobody could have foreseen COVID-19 coming and the lasting impact it was going to have on our nation and the world. A business owner doesn't necessarily like doing this. But in order for that business to stay open, a furlough might be one of the strategies it had to implement. So it literally was out of your control. Now, if you have received some indication that a furlough might be on the horizon, it's imperative that you begin the planning process now. And by planning, we mean planning and preparing yourself mentally and also financially. Again, this isn't something that you had any control over, but you do have control over how you respond to the situation. If you know you will be furloughed in the future, this is one way you can prepare for that event. Let's say you know you will be furloughed 1 month out of each year. You would take your monthly income, multiply that by 11, then divide that number by 12. Let's walk through an example to give you an idea of what this might look like. For this example, let's assume you bring home $3,000 per month. So you take $3,000 and multiply that by 11, which equals $33,000. Then divide $33,000 by 12, which equals $2,750. So $2,750 is the amount you would use as income for your budget. Here's our recommendation. You should consider putting $2,750 into your furloughed savings account. We've got some more math to do, but remember, this is all about preparation. And for those of you who can't stand doing math, don't you worry. We're going to walk you through this step by step and make this as easy as possible. You just got to follow along. First, let's start by figuring out what we're trying to accomplish. Our ultimate goal is to determine our income loss for each furloughed day. And make a note that this amount is just an estimate. We realize that some people have very unique tax situations, thus the amounts you actually compute may vary. Next, let's walk through each step of the equation, then we'll put some numbers to it. We start with our gross yearly income, which is your salary before taxes. We divide that by 260 days, which is the average number of work days in a year. Then we multiply this number by your federal marginal tax rate, which equals your daily net pay. Now, before we reach our ultimate goal, our income loss from each furloughed day, we also need to compute our daily gross pay. Now we can put some numbers to it so you understand the math. For this example, your gross yearly income is $40,000. Next, we take that $40,000, divide it by 260, which is the average number of work days in a year, and that equals $154. Daily gross pay? Check. Next up is computing our daily net pay. We already are familiar with our gross yearly income of $40,000, the 260 workdays, but we haven't defined our marginal tax rate. For this example, let's use 25% as the rate. If we go ahead and plug in all of our numbers, we determine that our daily net pay is equal to $39. Now, let's bring it on home. Our daily gross pay is $154. We subtract our daily net pay of $39, which equals $115. We have now reached our ultimate goal of solving for our income loss from each furloughed day, which again is $115. As I mentioned a few moments ago, this is a rough estimate. It might be somewhat less when you deduct FICA and state income, unemployment, and/or disability taxes. However, this number will allow you to have a rough idea of what your income will look like based on how many days you are furloughed. What you do next is use this dollar amount and review your budget and see how your furloughed income compares to your current spending. We've done quite a bit of math, and the next phase is all about analysis. You must do an in-depth analysis of your spending. When you're working full-time or your normal hours, many of us tend to not think about our spending habits. But a furlough will force you, well, it should, to take some time and review your spending. Let's be honest, this is not the most exciting thing to do, but it's necessary. And it's necessary because a furlough could come in many different forms. It could be a month, 3 months, 6 months, or maybe a year. Because a furlough comes in all shapes and sizes, you can't control that. But do you know what you can control? Your spending habits. Since you might suffer a temporary loss in income, you won't be able to continue to spend like you used to. While we know this will be challenging, we've got to get a firm grip on our spending. Where do we start with these changes? There are a couple of things you can do as it relates to your current spending. Again, this might not be what you want to do, but it's necessary. You need to have a firm understanding of your wants and your needs. From there, you can begin to see if there might be some expenses that you need to address. If you were accustomed to eating out frequently, perhaps that's an expense that needs to be reduced. Cooking at home is definitely more affordable than eating out. However, you probably enjoy the convenience of eating out as opposed to spending the time preparing and cooking a meal. And of course, you don't have to do the dishes when you eat out. Maybe there are certain brands that you have always supported, but now that you're furloughed, does it make sense to continue to support these brands? Perhaps there are some other more affordable brands that could serve as a substitute. What about your annual summer vacation? Since we've suffered a drop in our income, does it make financial sense to still take that summer vacation? Maybe you postpone the summer vacation in order to save that money for the holidays later in the year. And the last option, which will probably anger some people, you just might have to forego spending money on something you have always enjoyed doing. Well, we've made it to the end. We hope that you have found this webinar to be a great use of your time, and we hope you took some good notes. And we've got one ask. Share this information with at least one person who you care about. You might not be the one that was furloughed, but you might know someone who has been, and this webinar might serve them well. We realize this pandemic has affected millions of people, and we're doing our part to be that glimmer of hope. Please know that many people are seriously going through it. You are not alone, and we will get through this together. On behalf of Balance and all of our supporting partners, we sincerely appreciate you tuning in to the webinar. And please, please, please stay safe and stay healthy.